Greetings from the veteran. This is my in-game summary lessons learned video from Operation Torchlight. First of all, congratulations to the Warden for the big win in the game. He played an excellent game. Second off, well played, Fighting Irish. You also fought bravely and held your alliance with the Warden for quite a while. Even in a situation in China when it was not the most beneficial to you. But it did help you defeat me. So let's see here. A few things about the game. In China, so first off, the Allies did win at the end of the game with 21 victory points versus 7 for the Comintern and 4 for the Axis. Allies just dominated this game. In China, I want to say that China is or was one of the biggest factors to play in this game. One of the rules mistakes we also made as well. So the big rule mistake that we made in China was, and that affected the game, was that as soon as any foreign troops left the Chinese continental territories, which does not include Manchuria or Korea or Formosa, it just includes the Chinese mainland. If there are no foreign troops in the Chinese mainland, basically, then the KMT and the CCP are their truce is null and void. So when Japan evacuated their troops out of Peking and their troops were defeated in Nanking by the KMT, I believe that was in July 39 turn, maybe. On that turn, the KMT and CCP would no longer be allowed to share territories. So they shared territories in Suyan for much of the game and in Rihi. And without that added benefit of being in an allowable truce, that could have helped me survive longer in Manchuria a bit, maybe. Or it would have not allowed them to share territories for as long as they did until they decided to break the truce on their terms. So that's kind of an interesting detail. You don't look into all. You understand that you sign a truce, but you don't, like, all the rules in version 3 of this rulebook, like, you really have to look into and read all the details for, because you don't think and remember of details like that the KMT and CCP can no longer be in truce when there's no foreign units in their continental territory. And then you have to go up and look up in the glossary and such, like what continental China means if you were not aware of that definition. And like I explained, it's all of their mainland home country, to not include islands or Manchuria. With Japan, I did like my Netherlands East Indies attack on turn 3. It went well. It went well for me. I did lose a couple units. But I believe, so my goal in China was I wanted to maintain a balance between the factions, the KMT and CCP. I was thinking that by declaring war on turn 4, like I did, that it would strike a balance between the CCP and KMT. But instead, um, the KMT got a larger army because the CCP had only influenced two warlords at the time. They had influenced the Northern Warlord and Singhai. Part of the reason I declared also was the CCP were already pushing units forward to threaten my factory and units in Rihi. So I think that had I waited a turn, maybe until turn 5 to declare war, the CCP would have influenced another warlord, likely the one in Yunnan, and there would have been a better balance of forces, and maybe there would have been more internal conflict between the Chinese factions. Not entirely sure. And I haven't asked them, the Warden or Fighting Irish, if things would have changed at all. Except for the fact that when I declared war on turn 4 and the CCP moved aggressively against me in Peking and the large force, and then they had their troops in Suyon, that it was too much on my doorstep that I had to attack the CCP in Peking. So I wiped out their big army there, which just greatly put the balance of China into KMT. And with their agreement, they were able to become a major power, attacking me in Rihi a couple turns later. I think it was in July of 39. The same turn that the Russians attacked the Japanese as well. That was a big rule thing. Another big rule mess up that we did was that the Russians, they bought tanks 2 turns early. We later tried to fix that by not allowing them to buy advanced artillery for 2 turns, but the damage was already done, and it's just a reminder to check your reference sheets on everything and check the rulebook, because like that illegal play kind of ruined a little bit of the early battles in Russia when Germany got aggressive, when I got aggressive with the Germans, and it's kind of too bad that things were not played out correctly. I wish I would have known if things would have changed or not. It's kind of too hard to go back on things like that, though. Also, don't always trust your opponents. Like, just check the rule book and on everything, and your reference sheets. Like, no one else caught that Fighting Irish bought the tanks early. No one else said anything about it until later. And it kind of just feels pretty bad when you aren't following the rules of the game and it benefits you as a person who's not following the rules. What else? Rules. Sorry, lots to talk about here, and didn't write a script for this video or anything. So, oh yeah, back again to China being very big in this game, is that I the Warden just kept lend-leasing so much to the KMT. Um, as Japan, I don't think I've ever seen such a strong KMT before, and I wasn't quite aware of amount of damage they could do to Japan, which was mostly just by having so many aircraft that the KMT Air Force was and landing spots in Korea paired very well with the Americans, the aircraft coming from the West Coast with long-range aircraft being able to land in Korea, um, and they were able to bring a huge attacking force when I finally consolidated my Japanese Navy to season 38, and that attack happened twice in a row. Um, uh, and then later in the game, the KMT, as a major power, they were allowed to declare war on the Russians, and that just allowed the Allies to have a powerful aggressive force to use against both to finish off, to fight the CCP and the Russians in the east, somewhere it seems like it's the best way for the Allies to fight the Soviets and give it to them when the Axis are failing at their job. So yeah, I really like a major power KMT for the Allies. It seems like it worked out very well for them. And all the Lend-Lease of aircraft just really made it possible. The Chinese built themselves their infantry and their cavalry, and then the Allies just Lend-Lease the aircraft that the Chinese don't have money for and don't have factories to build. Yep, great play, the Warden in China and pushing into Russia. My board has not been updated. The Warden, I believe, in the game with control with Novosibirsk. He attacked Cheetah, but did not gain control of it. And he had to reclaim Sinkang at the end of the game. Yeah, so more on Japan. I think that I fought pretty well until well, actually I believe that my surprise strike turn could have been much better had I not sent my battleship, battle cruiser, and like the units that I sent down to New Zealand. They were all staged in the Caroline Islands on that turn, and they could have also went to Hawaii. I think if I would have sent a larger navy to Hawaii, the Americans would not have been able to counterattack me, and I would have been in a much better position the rest of the game. That was definitely a mistake. One that I repeated many times this game when I basically by spreading out my forces too thin. Did that with Japan on my surprise strike turn, and did it with Germany multiple times. I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, basically Japan wanted to rule the seas and be aggressive and get out and attack the Americans and the American Navy, but the attack on the surprise strike failed in Alaskan waters, and the Americans were able to counterattack me in Hawaii, and all my troops and Navy had spread out to attack the Philippines and New Zealand and a couple other targets, and I just wasn't able to ever bring an aggressive force against the Americans to deal them any sort of large blow, and ended up having to retreat to season 38, where they got to me anyways because of the again, because of the KMT Air Force and the Americans, their long-range aircraft, and they went the northern route. Yep. Yeah. Really wish I had not sent my Navy down here and sent it to Hawaii instead. Or just not attack Hawaii at all on that turn. Anyways, yeah, who knows what Pacific would have looked like had things been a little bit different. Putting all the militia down I did in the Dutch islands helped me hold for a bit longer, but not quite till the end of the game, so that didn't quite make it there for me. The warden, dominated Africa, the Italians never entering the war, and he also got into Iraq and Iran. As part of what I noticed this game was that with the early German aggression, the Soviet Union caught that they did not have extra resources to go and take Iran in their July 39 turn and go attack Iran or Finland. Instead, they built up their forces and built a large force in Oral Kursk and spread out a little bit around Russia and protected themselves against the oncoming German aggression. Let's move over here now. In Spain, I was fine not putting resources in there because I didn't spend any money. And so without spending any money, I didn't lose any of my resources when I lost the Spanish Civil War. But because I didn't spend any money there, also, I was able to focus on German ground troops. And I was ready for war with France very early. I did go into Switzerland on turn 3. I'm not sure if that was a mistake or not, but it did catch the eye of my opponents, and they were starting to become afraid of my early and quick aggression. And then I wanted to walk into Alsace-Lorraine on turn 4 and then walk into Paris on turn 5. And then on turn 7 in July of 39, I was going to use Lightning War and Surprise Strike ability on the Soviet Union. But I ended up noticing that the army and forces I had prepared to attack Paris on turn 5 was not going to be enough when the warden shifted his purchases and movements to fortify Paris on his turn 3 instead of continuing to lend-lease to Abyssinia, because the Italians failed on their attack on round 1, which I was very disappointed in. I do think in any other game that the Italians should win that war. I did get unlucky with my dice there, and it was not good for the Italians to lose that war. But also with the die rolls from my attack on Switzerland and on the Netherlands, it also allowed the British and French to both meet their wartime income prior to Germany turn 4, which meant Poland was able to get aggressive. I kind of wish I was a little bit more prepared and didn't have to lose Eastern Germany to their attack, but it all worked out that on turn 4, I instead decided to use my Lightning War and I did conquer Paris and conquer West Poland and Warsaw, and recaptured Eastern Germany as well. Yeah, I think my early aggression did turn out well for me, but it did scare the Allies in Comintern in order to come to a strong alliance to fight against me. So I did like my early aggression. I do feel like instead of preparing for, again, I want to go over what my goal was with Lightning War against Russia. The reason I wanted to use Lightning War against the Soviets and Surprise Strike as well was that my plan was, and I did build the tanks and have the self-propelled artillery. I was going to blitz staged in Warsaw, when I launched my attack, and I could win 1, 2, 3, 4 to Moscow, or from Romania, 1 to southern Ukraine, 2 to eastern Ukraine, 3 to Kursk, 4 to Moscow. So with enough fast movers and a surprise strike on your side, it's potential for the Germans to hit Moscow the turn they go to war with the Soviet Union, which would be quite crazy and quite a big impact on the war between Germany and Russia if I was able to do that. But I didn't save the Lightning War, and I did still build the fast movers and use them. Where I went wrong though was I definitely spread out my attacks too much, and then when the dice didn't follow my favor, it just expanded upon the problem of me spreading my attacks out a little bit too much. Basically, any other units that I sent to attack elsewhere, I should have included in my Oral Kursk attack. If that attack had gone a lot better, I would have been in a much better position in Russia the turn I went to war. And then like the next turn or two, I ended up garrisoning Smolensk. That was a big mistake on my part because I knew that I should have seen that I was going to be surrounded. I didn't control Kursk or Western Russia, and the only territory he needed to grab was Southern Belarusia, which I didn't have any units in. So if I had a chance to not get surrounded in Smolensk, my force would have been okay to advance into the city. But it was my mistake definitely when I put my units in the city, and it got surrounded and defeated. That was good on Fighting Irish. And then he just built the right units. He built enough cavalry in Stalingrad that when I saw that he had units mostly up north, and I decided on my southern push, by the time I got my slow-moving army down to, I think it was northern Caucasia, he got enough cavalry and other units that he was able to finish my push, knock out my advances down in the Caucasian region, and from there on he just pushed towards me, and he had a large army in southern Ukraine and a large force in, I think, Lubelsky or southern Belarusia. That was another turn that I spread out my attacks too much. Had I not attacked his force in Lubelsky and sent all of my aircraft and most of my units to the southern Belarusia attack, then the next turn that attack would have been successful, and I would not have lost Romania the next turn to the Soviets with their counterattack. That was the big swing in tempo in my war against the Russians again. And big mistake on my part. Kept spreading out my attacks and feeling too confident. Because like Fighting Irish did mention, I did have the high pip units. I had the tanks and the planes, but I did not have enough infantry or enough extra units that would give me the flexibility to have bad dice rolls but still win the combat. Yeah, the war in Russia, between Russia and Germany, could have been so different in this game. Bit disappointed in how it turned out for me, obviously. Yeah, at that point, that's when the Japanese had lost their navy to the Americans in KMT, and the Russians had broken through in Romania. I knew that I couldn't fight everywhere, and really wanted to make this more of a three faction war, and so I made the deal with the warden at that time, and I wanted to focus against Russia, and the warden approached me actually to make the deal to focus on Fighting Irish, and because he was the only one to approach me, I made the deal with him. I might have made the deal at that point instead with Fighting Irish, but he never approached me for any sort of deal. I think, hindsight, I should have approached Fighting Irish. I should have seen the power of the Allies in the KMT and tried to go on with that, but I did reach out to both of them and try to point out that they should focus on each other and the Axis weren't going to win this game. But it didn't work, and they stayed as allies until the Warden and I made a deal, and also until the Soviets started bringing troops toward Iran, which scared the Warden. He didn't like the a look of aggression towards Iran because he wanted it for himself, and he did get it for himself. So yeah, that's when I made the deal with the Warden, and he wanted me to give him France, so I agreed. I think that was definitely a mistake on my part. But yeah, another one that was interesting for me was deciding on how many resources I needed to split to guard against the British Navy, the British Army, which was being transported by their Navy with their 5 transports. And so I needed to guard against that in Western Germany, the Netherlands, and France. And I could have gone aggressive against his Navy with my Navy, but yeah, it was kind of a hard struggle to decide what to do with that, and then also with how much pressure and money to spend in the Eastern Front against Russia. It was hard to decide. I felt a little better when I finally decided I would not attack the British Navy in the Channel, but that I would just instead focus on ground troops and defense. I felt a little bit more focused then, but yeah, earlier game, I did think I played okay with my submarine warfare, but got him to spread out all over the Atlantic, going on escort duty, and I was able to pick off destroyers here and there. And I really kept the attention of the British Navy in the Atlantic. They did not get to go and reinforce over over to the Indian and Pacific Oceans, and it allowed Japan to maintain control of some of the Dutch islands when I was focusing more against the United States and whatnot. It allowed Japan to gain control of the Dutch islands longer. Uh, yeah. Anyways, it was a pretty good attack by the warden when he declared war on Spain and attacked every territory all at once. And good diplomacy on him to get France from me. And just everything he did worked in his favor. And that allowed me to focus on the Russians. But when I thought I had a truce with the warden, even though I did a minor thing or two, like he expected me to leave him alone in the Netherlands when he left it empty, but I grabbed the Netherlands, so I guess that angered him a lot. So he backstabbed Italy when I thought we were gonna keep peace, and I knew I was quite dead if he wanted to. So I had to make a late game peace with the Soviets, but it was too late. The Allies had already won the game. And yeah. Yeah, good game, everyone. And the Warden, best of luck to you as you head out on your trips in March and April and your move to Germany and Fighting Irish. I'll see you in Operation Barbarossa. And good game, everyone. Thanks for watching, viewers. And that's it for now. All right, bye.